warm, cool, warm, cool, warm, cool. So I'm sure you guys are trying to figure out, what the heck am I doing? I'm demonstrating the differences between cool and warm because in this video, we are going to be discussing undertones, how to determine what your undertone is, what they are, all that kind of good stuff. So let's go ahead and get started. So let's talk undertones. Undertones are essential when you're trying to determine what your foundation shade is, what type of lipstick looks best on you, what color clothing is flattering, and just generally what suits you best. Now your undertone is the color underneath your skin that gives your skin a particular hue. Now there are three main undertones that are universally understood as general descriptors when it comes to undertones, which is warm, cool, and neutral. So if you've ever looked on the back of a foundation bottle and you've seen that W, C, or N and never knew what those were, that's actually what they mean. Now your undertone is actually different than your skin tone. So your skin tone is the shade of the skin, your overall appearance that you're seeing when you immediately look at your skin. And a lot of times there are different ways companies will describe your skin tone. It can vary from anything from like fair, beige, deep. I've even seen skin tones described with numbers and also quite delicious names like vanilla, chestnut, creme brulee, ganache. Shall I go on? Now one thing I want to note here is just because you have a fair skin tone doesn't necessarily mean you automatically have a cool undertone. Just like vice versa, if you have a deeper skin tone, it doesn't necessarily mean you automatically have a warm undertone. Sometimes you might have a fair skin tone and a warm undertone, and you might have a deeper skin tone and a cool undertone. Took me a couple times to get it right. Oh, so many skin tones and undertone talk. Now I also want to throw in here, and this is going to be like a general reoccurring theme throughout this video. Just because you have a certain undertone doesn't mean you have to stick to like particular colors or shades or anything like that. This is just how you generally figure out your undertone. Just so if you can't figure out how to color correct, or you can't find the right foundation shade or lipstick or eyeshadow that fits you best, well, this might help you out a little bit. So now that we have discussed the difference between skin tone and undertone, I'm gonna go ahead and describe a couple different methods that you can use to determine your undertone if you have no idea where to start. Now, one method of determining your undertone is figuring out what type of jewelry you like. I know, jewelry is a girl's or boy's best friend. Who doesn't love jewelry? But it can actually be an effective tool when it comes to determining your undertone. If you see yourself gravitating towards gold type of jewelry, you most likely have a warm undertone. If you find yourself gravitating towards silver jewelry, you most likely have a cool undertone. If you're one of those lucky people who jewelry just looks good on you, doesn't matter if it's gold or silver, you most likely have a neutral undertone. Now, branching off using jewelry to determine your undertone, another common way of using that type of method also employs looking at your veins. So if you look at the veins on your forearm, you can kind of see your veins running underneath your skin. So if your veins appear a bit more green, you most likely have a warm undertone. Like me, my veins are green, and if you have bluer veins, that typically means you have a cooler undertone. So you can not only hold the jewelry up next to your skin itself, but you can also hold the jewelry next to your veins and kind of use that to determine what your undertone is. Now, method number two of figuring out what your undertone is figuring out what types of colors suit you best. So this kind of goes into what clothing you tend to gravitate towards as well. Kind of looking at color theory, colors like orange, yellows, reds, those tend to be more flattering on warmer undertoned people. Now, when you look at colors like blues, purples, and greens, those tend to suit people who have cooler undertones. Now, of course, if you want to test this method, you can try on different clothing pieces in those different shades and see which tends to suit you best. Or if you want to do the lazy method, you could just drape things over your body and figure out from there what also looks good on you. Now, if you are one of those people that every color looks good on you, that most likely means you have a neutral undertone. So that means you don't necessarily have warm undertone, you don't necessarily have a cool undertone, you kind of have like a mixture of both. Now, method number 3 involves analyzing and looking at your skin very closely. So if you look at your skin and you're seeing colors like peach, yellow, or green, you most likely have a warm undertone. Or if you look at your skin and you see more of a pinkish hue to your skin, that means you have a cool undertone. Now, it's obviously best to do this method when you don't have any makeup on your skin, so you can see your skin in its natural condition, as well as using natural lights, because obviously when you have a bit of these artificial lights going on, they tend to influence what your skin looks like. Okay, so now you figured out what your undertone is and you're thinking to yourself, what do I do with all this newly acquired knowledge? Well, this is a beauty channel, so naturally I'm gonna be talking about color matching with makeup and K-beauty. Now, I wanna show you guys the difference between cool and warm makeup, so I'm gonna be demonstrating with both. Now, starting off with the original Lumilayer Primer, this has a bit of lilac-y purple reflex to it, so it's excellent for those of you guys who have cool undertones, but I use it still. I still like how it looks on my skin, and you can kind of see the iridescence glow it gives my skin. Now, to match, I am going to be using cooler toned eyeshadows. This is something that I don't wear as often, but it's still something I'll wear every once in a while. And as you can see, I'm using kind of slate, silver, purpley type of colors. And then I'm going to be sticking with a cool foundation so you can see the difference at the end. Now I'm just blending it onto my skin, and also I used a cool concealer as well as a blush that's a bit of a cool toned pink, and just kind of dab that onto my cheeks. And this is what cooler makeup looks like. Now again, you'll see the difference when I do the warm makeup here, because I do compare them at the end. Now, I personally like to use the new Lumilayer Primer Fresh. This is the newer version of the Lumilayer Primer from VDL, and this one has a little bit more gold reflex to it, so it really complements my warm undertone. So here's what I'm talking about when I'm comparing the two. The right is fresh, and then the left is the original, and then this is what it looks like in natural light. So it's a very subtle difference, but it does give you that glow from within. And again, if you kind of match your undertone with the particular primer, it tends to just emphasize your natural skin. Now, of course, for the makeup and the eyeshadow, I'm doing something a bit more warm, and you'll probably notice this is makeup I tend to wear more often, just because I think it looks nicer on me. And for the foundation, obviously I'm using warm, and you can actually see how much warmer it is as it goes onto my skin. And of course, a warm concealer, and then a warm blush. And this is the finished look, and again, here's them next to each other. You can see the subtle difference. I mean, I still think both are very wearable, but I tend to stick to the warm just because it complements my natural skin tone. Alright, you guys, so I hope you enjoyed this informational video about how to find and determine what your undertone is. And if you're still kind of confused on what your undertone is, I will leave a link down in the description box below for VDL's K-Beauty color matching quiz, which will take you right through the steps of determining what your personal undertone is. And through that quiz, you can also claim your free sample of either the Lumilayer Primer Fresh or the Lumilayer Primer, so if you've ever been curious about trying either or, you can get your free sample there. As always, I hope you guys are happy and healthy, and don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, share with your friends and family, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys!